Okay, so I'll call the meeting of the Salaries and Emoluments Commission to order. Could you please take the roll?
Steve Rieger.
Here.
Pat Redmond.
Here.
Marianne Burke.
Here.
Also in attendance, I'm Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk, and
Rose Foley, Assembly Budget Analyst.
and then could the rest of you tell us what your names are for the record?
Yes, Katie Rutledge,
And you're with?
Anchorage School District.
Thank you.
Kristen Evans, Municipality Benefits Department, Plan Administrator. Juna Pinney, Director of Employee Benefits for the municipality.
Thank you. And then would you mind saying your names for the record too?
Kathleen Hatch with KTUU.
And David Brooks with KTU.
Hey, you have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved. And the next item is the approval of the meetings of the last, approval of the minutes of the last meeting on September 10th.
I move that we we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from September 10th? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, so the minutes are approved. Old business? Is there any old business?
No old business.
Okay, on to new business. There is one item of new business in the agenda, and that is proposed salary increase. And the way we would start on this is to have a public hearing. So I do note that there is one email that the municipal clerk circulated to us regarding it. Is there anyone from the public here who wishes to testify? Or anyone who wishes to testify? Okay, so we're hearing no other discussion. I'll consider the public hearing closed and move on to discussion.
Do you want a motion? Do we have a motion?
I think it would be good to put a motion on the table so we have it for discussion purposes.
Okay. At the last meeting, we moved to consider a 1.5% increase in salary for the Anchorage Assembly members. Is that motion still on the floor?
It would be in order to move that.
Move it
There's a
again.
draft here, which also reaches to the school board members as well, the way the draft is
They're
written.
two separate things. So I'll move to consider a 1.5% increase to the salary of the Anchorage Assembly members.
Okay. Will that work okay, Barbara, to work
Yes,
with
it
your
will.
draft? Okay. So just...
That was moved by Pat Redmond.
Seconded for discussion.
And just to make sure I'm clear, the motion is for the assembly members, including the salary for the chair and the salary for the other members?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, this we just provided for discussion purposes. It's a draft. You can slaughter it. You can do whatever
Right.
you want for it. We just thought it would be a place for you to start the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, right off the bat, there's some
Yep.
errors in it. Well, I think.
Okay.
It has, wait a minute. Yeah, because of, it says for the chair of the assembly newly elected, he would be re-elected the same office. This commits on certification of the 2017 election.
So So the regular 2017 election is in April now?
It is, but let's double check that. And we'll take a look at that old 2008. Is that the way? I think that the way the charter reads, which is in the way back, it could go into effect in July of 16.
16.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might have just been
a typo.
Yes.
And because it's in the second part, it's of this resolution later on, it's correct.
Okay.
However, now that given, I have given this a lot of thought over the last couple of weeks, and I just am not comfortable, even though these are a few years out, I am not comfortable approving any increase at this time, even if it's projected out and it's not current. Partly because these people are, if they did it for the money, and I don't know if I want them in there anyway. It's part of their civic duty too to hold these offices. And I know when it started they didn't make all kinds of money. So I'm comfortable with their salary as it currently is, or their compensation as it currently is.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
agree with Pat. It just bothers me that we're in such a financial crisis, and the people who are most visible in this situation, it does not seem appropriate to me for us to increase their compensation at this point.
Okay, could we just to have all the information out, what is the current salary? Maybe I'll ask the budget analyst for the
Yes.
chair and for the...
Are we going off the 2008 amended resolution?
Yep.
So it hasn't been increased since 2012. It'll be
Correct.
for the Anchorage Assembly Chair. It's $31,713. The president of the Anchorage School Board, it's $25,310.
25,000, what was the...
310.
Okay.
And for the assembly members?
For assembly members, it's $28,024. And for other school board members, $21,476.
And does that, through the chair, does that include the benefits, or is that just the straight figure? There's benefits on top of those?
That's just their salary.
Just the salary.
The benefits are detailed in section 7 of the 2008,
Right.
and it's the $250 bi-weekly. And there are lots of little,
Caveats on it, yes.
yes, that. And part of the reason why we asked the school board to send somebody and the MOA to send somebody, because I think there were a lot of questions about that, and I can't explain it. And you were here, Pat, and you were here, but I thought if you needed an explanation that they could explain it.
I just wanted to make sure that base salary didn't include that, so we know that that's an additional. Thank you.
And bi-weekly means every 2 weeks.
Well, interestingly, I looked that up, Mr. Chair. and bi-weekly means, it can mean two different things, but it does mean, one of the meanings is every 2 weeks. And in this context, I believe that's what it meant, every 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm sure that's the way it's implemented. Is that correct? Excuse me, through the
That's fine,
chair.
yeah.
That would actually come out of payroll, that would come out of the.
Okay, all right.
So in the discussion in their last meeting, which led to consideration of whether to do an increase, we talked about what the salary schedule was for municipal employees and what had happened. And could someone here refresh our memory on what the pay increase, say, since 2012 has been on the regular employee salary schedule?
Did you know I could go pull a salary schedule so we could take a look at that?
Well, it's not the schedule, it's just what was there across the board increases of a certain percent in any of those years.
Well, of course, we've got different classes of employees too.
So it's,
We have the union
Executives,
employees, executive non-exempt, so it varies.
So we would be talking about more akin to executive employees, the department director level, and the increase proposed in January for that level is 1.5%. I know that's payroll, but you know, I'm just, let me know if I'm making a mistake.
I think that's
Oh,
This was
did we
for-
provide that?
This was for 20, and this was as of 2013, so this was not current.
And I believe in 2014 it was also 1.5%. No, it might have been more than that in 14. But I'd have to go pull that if you wouldn't mind. Did someone discuss it? And did they provide that information to us?
it may have been only a discussion of what the proposal was for 2015. And,
Or for 16?
or, well, for 16. Yeah, for
16, the
coming up,
proposal
yeah.
is 1.5% for executive employees. That is correct.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion from either member, I just would add, I mean, my memory of the discussion last time, but at least my view on it is that we looked at the fact there hadn't been a change in the compensation since 2012, but that the projected 4% that was scheduled in for the 2 years prior was probably higher than what the rate of inflation had been. And so it was a judgment call that keeping up with inflation would be like a no action. It's not an increase, it's not a decrease. You know, it's just staying even. So then the question was about what to do about 2015, and I think what did motivate me to consider it was the fact that it seemed to be what was being contemplated for all the other executive positions. I'm willing to just to go with the will of the majority. We can each vote our conscience and take it, but it seems that the range is between no action being not changing the pay and no action being not changing it in terms of inflation adjusting. I mean, that seems to be the range of what is being considered.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would like to also point out that we haven't gotten any input from the public, and I know that's pretty much par for the course.
With the exception of an email.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't consider you the public, you're part of the most.
No, sorry, I printed it. It came to the assembly members.
Oh, okay.
It was printed from my account.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the correction. I feel very strongly about this. These are the point people, these are our leaders setting an example. And I don't think 1.5% is going to determine whether someone stays on the assembly or not. And I don't want to be unfair to them, but this is a less than normal situation we're facing, and it's just going to get worse.
And Mr. Chair, I think that this should not, their salaries really should not be based on inflation. They receive a stipend for serving for the public. I mean, that's basically what all of our elected officials supposedly do, is to receive a stipend. And we do this for community service, and I don't know of anybody that would really do it if they didn't feel like they were doing the job. They would do it anyway, whether or not they were receiving compensation. So this just helps them to be able to do the job better. I just feel like right now we can readdress it again next year. And yes, it only affects the newly elected, but we can still look at it again each year and see if things change. But right now I'm not in favor of changing.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? And is there any other, even though that we are through public testimony, I wouldn't mind if there was a member of the public who's shown up or wants to speak? No. Are you ready for the question then? This should be a roll call?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
Mr. Rieger.
So, I'll vote yes.
Ms. Burke.
No.
Ms. Redmond.
No.
So
Motion fails.
Motion fails. Is there a motion on the school board section of the proposed resolution?
I'll move 1.5% increase to the salary of school board members, including the chair and president of the school board.
Second for discussion.
And this one, the wording in the draft resolution does correctly refer to 2016, so we can look at that.
And can I ask a question of our school board, this person in the school district? Do they make any comment? Is the school board concerned about any increase?
I have not heard any feedback from the school.
Thank you. Again, I'm not comfortable at this time increasing any salaries, so I would be voting against increasing the school board's salaries also, or compensation. This is not really a salary, it's compensation for their community service.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, for the same rationale that I used on the assembly vote, I feel the same way on the motion before us.
Okay.
That is against it.
Right. No,
Just to be clear.
Right. Can I just have a minute? I just want to read what's on the back page of this resolution to see if there's anything that maybe I should. Well, we could probably handle it separately, but I don't want this to go unnoticed in case there's a motion that pertains to something there, if there's a motion needed there. So,
Okay.
So let's address just what in this draft would be Section 3 and Section 4. Is that agreeable? Okay, so is there any further discussion? Take the roll, please. Yeah.
Mr. Rieger.
Yes.
Ms. Burke.
No.
Ms. Redmond.
No.
Okay, so the motion fails again. The only reason I'm bringing up the back page is, absent a resolution, does the status quo carry forward, or do you need a resolution to speak to anything beyond 2000, I guess beyond where we are now?
I think that would be an opportunity to ask these experts rather than me.
Okay.
Section 8, if you refer to Section 8, it says the provisions of Sections 1 through 7 shall remain in effect until changed in accordance with Section 508 of the Charter.
So in the absence of this resolution, does section 5, 6, and 7 stay in effect because there's something in the charter that causes those to stay in effect?
That's how I read that.
So no action is necessary on these to keep them. Would that be a fair reading? Okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I thought the question you might want to ask them is that, are these the same benefits that, I mean, do these benefits make sense at this time? Is there some other benefit that has suddenly appeared that we should be considering? Is there a different benefit? I'm not sure if there is or not.
I agree, because I would especially like to make sure that we're still using the same terms for the deferred compensation and all the various options that the employees have. Because the feds do have a way of changing things a bit to make it complicated. Isn't there a 500 series?
I don't know. We have benefits folks here at the table that may be able to
The
answer
one
that.
change that I see is the deferred comp account. You have a 427, it's a 457.
That's
Is that what you're thinking?
So does that mean we should add a 457, or is the 427 now 457?
Good question. And I believe that the 457 has replaced the 427, because we don't offer a 427 at this time.
Oh, okay, so should that be,
Well, good question. That's what I'm trying to get to, is whether taking no action on section 7 of this draft resolution leaves the status quo in effect. That's all I'm trying to ascertain. Maybe that's a little different from what Pat's asking, but that's what I'd like to be sure of.
I guess the question, well, no, the question is, if since there's no longer a 427, is the 457 in effect?
Through the chair, I would suggest, and I would like other, our budget analyst and benefits to jump in as well, since it says 427 paren deferred comp paren account, and there is no such thing as a 427, and it should be a 457, which is the deferred comp account. Arguably, if an assembly member elected to participate in that, or that there would not be an issue, they would be entitled to participate in that just because there's been a number change here. And I think the other issue would probably be when a newly elected assembly member meets with employee relations and benefits, they're given the information on the 457. So I think that is a different way of stating the question, but I think that might be part of what we wanted to confirm.
Okay. I think that would be an issue if we actually adopted a resolution that included this language. But if we take no action, I'm assuming that administratively the municipality is already administering deferred comps under a 457. So if we don't take any of this language and act on it, it's not an issue. And I want to make sure that's fair.
Yes.
That's correct. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
So, well, I see a hand raised. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The Anchorage School District, we actually have a 403B also,
Okay.
and a 457. So just,
Do you have
Okay.
the 401k though?
no,
Okay. So
You don't have a 401.
just the 403B and 457.
So I'm just to make sure on the record, if we don't take action on section 7, even that 403B that was just mentioned is unaffected if we don't take some action here that would tend to change the status quo.
We would continue on like we've been doing, so if
Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
Good.
Just want to make sure it's clear. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, I know when I was appointed to this commission, one of the things that I had trouble wrapping my head around was the long periods of time between resolutions. And I wondered, did they just not meet and do nothing? And in some cases it looked like that, but fortunately we had a historian here who could fill us in on what happened. But can I ask this as a why question? Why don't we have a resolution and adopt it that says no increase?
You may do whatever you would like. That is, through the chair, that's the board's, the commission's prerogative. I started staffing the board in 2012, and I think you hadn't met for about 2 years, and I scrambled to get you to meet within the requirement of the charter by April of 2013, I believe. But I think it had been a long time since you'd gone without meeting.
And there was really, if I may, just
Go ahead.
add to that, that's the confusion that I'm talking about, There was really no clear path that the group had or had not met and made a conscious decision. Now I feel we have met and made a conscious decision. We've put of record why we feel this way. We have voted on it. Maybe it's my obsessive compulsive nature, but it seems to me that it would help for future reference to have a resolution that memorializes what we did, and even though we moved not to change it.
Mr. Chairman, maybe it's more like we need a memorandum that this continues, that we say that this, we made no change. It's not necessarily a resolution, but that we made no change, and that way it's more official than just the minutes even. Is that something? Because I understand that. When I came on too, it was like,
What happened?
No, yeah. Fortunately, I have had someone give me minutes from previous meetings, and a lot of research had been done.
Well,
Well,
through the chair,
yes.
the only way the commission takes action is
Is there a
through
resolution?
or motion at your minutes that you've moved and seconded and voted on.
Yeah, I mean, that is an alternative way. I mean, it does seem a little odd to take action, to take no action, which is kind of what it is if you vote to say we're not going to do anything. But you do have the chance, we have the opportunity to flesh out our minutes, and we could request that the minutes be prepared that more thoroughly describe the discussion further, and then approve those at our next meeting, and that would become part of the record.
That would be true. I was also thinking one of the other things that you could do, some boards and commissions have like an annual report, and even if your annual report was just a memo or a letter to the assembly, then you could detail, you've met quite a few times in the last year to discuss this issue among others. You have taken action on 2 other resolutions, so we could detail all of that information.
Yeah, that's an alternative too. Since it's your issue, maybe I bounce it back to you on whether that would be satisfactory.
Well, I think that would be very good, but I again, this obsessiveness of me, I would like, as a new member, to come in and be able to flip through each time this issue arose. What did they do? And not worry, did I miss one? Because you were looking, Barbara, you were looking for things, and as a newbie, I was quite happy. And I would be perfectly happy with Steve's suggestion. It's just I'd like to have a paper trail.
That makes sense. Yes, I mean, like here, we had a resolution that carried through 2014, that the one you handed out. And so in 2016, you just want to be able to have minutes or something that says this is what happened in 2015, so that every year is accounted
It's
for.
a
That's
clear
what,
trail.
that's
Mhm.
to paraphrase. That's what we're
Mhm.
looking for. Well, maybe we could ask for just a little more.
Do you want me to go try and
Little
draft
more.
something for you?
Sure, if we have time. We have time.
We have 20
yeah.
minutes.
The other
Okay.
question would be, is this something, because we've actually taken the action we're gonna take
Exactly.
on this part. Does that, the next part have to be done within this budget year, since it doesn't affect the budget?
Through the chair, the codes or the charter says, I'm not sure if it's the code or charter, says you have to adopt it 30 days before the end of the
Fiscal, or the, yeah.
calendar year. So that's part of why we were trying to
Right.
do it now. But since you're taking no action, that probably doesn't apply.
Because we already took the action we were gonna take, which was no action.
Mhm.
Just so we keep everything on track, we probably should make sure that there isn't any further motions, and then, and then it'd be more. We can more confidently say that this is all we're going to take. So, I'll just ask: is there any further action proposed by anyone on the proposed salary increase? Okay, in that case, I'll consider the item 6 on the agenda is closed, and now we can bring up, with the consent of everyone, even though it's a little departure from reports. But this is like reports. We'll take it up under reports. But the suggestion for more fleshed out maybe.
Could I make a comment on that? If we know that the resolution number would be the same in all of this. If you just filled in the blanks as it is written and made the changes as far as the benefits numbers being changed and adding the school district, wouldn't that be all that would be necessary?
If it's a question to me,
I think that would change this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That would, my first thought was that, we could just at least change this part. But if we start filling in these blanks, then you're going to be into another whole can of worms. So,
Through the chair, I think you may be all right passing a resolution that say the provisions of section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of resolution 2008-2 as amended shall remain in effect.
there,
That's good. And then could we make the changes for section 7?
You could say except for section 7, and then we could detail the change where 427 is changed to 457 or 403B.
and that wouldn't, no one's going to misinterpret this, that makes any increase anywhere else.
I think that's a good
I think that's a good idea.
solution because we can get it done. Barbara is a very efficient person.
Both the school district's change and the
Mhm. Because you, may I?
yes,
Through
go
the
ahead.
chair.
Go ahead.
The school district has, rather than a 401k, they have 403B. So if,
and 457B. Is your 457B a deferred account? Is that what that is?
Mhm.
That's their deferred account. Okay, so.
and the other one is in lieu of the 401k.
Right.
So So we could just add 401k for, what's it again?
403B.
403B or 457. Just add the
Or do
school
we need
districts
to
in
put
there.
numbers even? Maybe we want to just leave it. It's like a medical savings as well.
So it
Both
could
of them.
read into a medical savings account, comma, 401k
Comma.
or 403b, comma, or 457 deferred comp account.
Yes. And I would definitely say we need the numbers because
Yeah.
that makes sure that the benefits people have support for what code section they're using.
I don't know. Let's ask the benefits people. Would this resolution, like what we're talking about, help you, or is it going to
The muni
make
doesn't
you
offer a
nervous?
medical savings account, so that's old language.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were trying to fix it in their drafting here, but
Mm.
that-
Does the school district,
We have a health savings account.
but that's only with their qualifying high deductible health plan, right?
Yeah.
And we offer an HSA and an FSA.
We have FSA.
Yeah.
It's messier than I thought.
Is it?
A little more complicated and messy than I thought.
So are your school board members,
I'm worried about the
school board
unintended
members, are they
consequences.
eligible to participate in your FSA or HSA?
If they chose medical and wanted the additional to the salary, and they chose the high deductible plan, we would let them do the HSA. But even on the traditional PPO, they could have an FSA.
Well, the only concern I have is just if the kind of thing that's being contemplated here gets misinterpreted by someone. I mean, it's all well intentioned, but if someone looks at this and said, "Well, you've taken some administrative action to make it work, and this could be construed as wanting to undo what you did," I mean, those are the kind of unintended consequences I worry about. But other than that, I mean, it's
Well, I'd
fine.
like to, if I can, ask
Yes.
a question. So based on this language, can you tell me what the intent is with the elected officials? Do you want them to have the full variety of benefits as an employee? Or would you like them to be treated truly as an elected official, however, take into consideration the medical piece? I guess that would help our understanding of what needs to be or what should be possibly offered.
Speaking for myself, I think that there's kind of two intents. One is to, if it doesn't cost anything, to let these kinds of tax deferrals be available to elected officials. And so part of it is whatever it is that you've decided you're going to offer, we don't have a problem with the elected officials also doing it. That's how I interpreted the intent, but I could be wrong. But not trying to create something and not trying to change whatever the status quo is. So,
Yeah, because I mean, it's to the extent allowed by law, the Assembly and School Board shall follow the same provisions as other municipal employees regarding health allowance. Municipal employees not using their entire medical allowance may roll excess funds pre-tax into blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's expected that some Assembly and School Board members will choose to use their allowance for something other than purchasing medical coverage. Does that do it? So I'm wondering too, though. Yeah, you're right. If we,
yes.
Through the chair, I think the most important thing, and I don't know about for the school board, but for the municipality, the elected officials are employees. At least the assembly members are, or LRSA officials aren't. Group Board of Supervisors aren't. But I think that if they're considered employees, then they should be entitled to the same benefits as employees. And is that correct to the MOA benefits people, that they're municipal employees? We treat them like municipal employees.
You know, honestly, none of them are on the plan. So, kind of hard to say.
There are benefits that they do not receive that a regular employee receives, such as the employer paid life insurance that employees receive, the long-term disability. They're not allowed to buy into the short-term disability. They don't get leave time on personal holidays, and they're not allowed to participate in personal fund accounts. And because their stipend comes in differently, and it doesn't come anywhere near what the monthly premium costs, they're required to pay them premium directly every month if they would elect to do it. Currently, we have no members, as an assembly member, electing our health care.
But I think that was the intent was if they chose to have it, they could pay in, this would help them to pay into it.
But they pay the full cost themselves.
Well, through the chair, I think this section is very confusing. And I admit, I invited these women here because I thought if you did go about changing this section needed to be reworded. And so, the next time as this progresses, I would like to make sure that you're involved with this and come back and that we get some good wording here, because I think this is very difficult language to understand.
You know, and Mr.
Yes,
we
go ahead.
could currently leave this as it is, just do nothing with it. But over the next year, and maybe we might have to meet a couple of times, but work on this particular part of it. And by then we may have to find, we want to change the whole thing anyways. But it is something to, we should consider. We should be looking at this every year anyway.
I agree. I think this has an awful lot more wrinkles than we're considering.
Through the chair, is there any way that we could ask if these experts could help you redraft it? Maybe they could propose some language for you, and we could set up some meetings in 2016, and you could begin your review of that?
I mean, it would be fine if you wanted to do it. I mean, I look at this as mainly, what we look at is the biweekly dollar amount. I mean, how it gets administered, is kind of more into the weeds than we generally cared about, because it's about pay. It's not about benefits. And my only concern is whether we're helping by getting into describing these benefits, or whether we should just stick to, it's the most basic thing we can, which is how much is the monthly or the biweekly stipend, and let it get administered in whatever way works. I mean, but maybe it would help to have language suggested, but it's only helpful if it's helpful to you. I mean, if you're wrestling with it, then we probably should fix it.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment about that. To administer any benefit is a cost. There is no such thing as free administration of a benefit.
Okay, so that's
Just
that's
as
good
a
point.
point.
Okay.
I think the whole business came out to begin with, Mr. Chairman, because health benefits were not available was it not available to the school board, but they were available to the assembly or vice versa, and we wanted to make it available to both if they chose to do so. And then if they didn't choose to use that funding for health benefits, to help purchase health benefits, they could use it to help fund their expenses as a board member or assembly member. So I'm not sure how to do it at this point.
Through the chair, but I wanted to make sure, although some of them could use it, I think it says if they don't use it,
Right.
it's taxable salary, and I think Juna Penny said none of them are taking it.
Is that correct? They're not taking it.
No, they're taking the 250.
They're not taking this benefit.
They're not purchasing the benefit.
And what would their medical premium be if they were purchasing it themselves?
For 2016, we have 3 different options, and the $500 deductible plan is $1,965.45 a month. And then the $1,000 copay plan is $1,923.65, and the high deductible health plan, which has a $1,300 deductible, is $1,675.64.
They don't get the muni contribution
No,
that
no.
ade it. They
So
just
they'd be
get
paying
the
$1,400 a month
Right.
after they took their $500 biweekly to purchase the health insurance. Which would be more than half their annual salary.
Right.
Yes. That's a lot.
And I think I got something from the school district that said the annual premium was $16,000 for the school boards if someone was to purchase it from the school board.
And we currently have 1 person.
That's the. Oh,
Well, that's what 1900 something would work out to. Yeah.
So, do we want to even, I'm thinking, there's a lot of other things that use that $500 a month stipend for, as far as their expenses.
but through the chair, I'd argue it is not for, it depends. It's considered salary, so it's not, I understand what you mean by stipend and expenses, but technically it is salary.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think that we have proven that this is much more involved than our original thought, and I think Barbara's suggestion on asking the experts to sit down in 2016 and work on this, even if the decision is made that it is better to not go into detail, that's still an analysis, a thoughtful analysis that we've done.
I'd feel more comfortable with it being looked at hard by someone before we wade into it. I think I'm there. So.
I agree.
So would you like to still do a resolution for 2015 that says the provision shall remain in effect, and we'll take out the except section 7? Okay, so would you like me to do a resolution to that effect for your review? Or would you like to set another meeting in December to come back and take a look at that
No,
resolution?
Mr. Chairman, currently, the whole thing should remain in effect until we make a change.
Correct. So it would say something to the effect of the provisions of section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in resolution 2008-2 as amended shall remain in effect. And that would be all your resolution for 2015 would say. Something to that effect.
Right. So basically there's no change. Yeah.
And it
The
does
wording-
leave the paper trail.
Sorry. The wording is tricky. I don't want to be too detailed on it. I just want to be sure, and I'm not sure. Maybe I can't be sure that when we even go so far as to reaffirm the language of section 7 in a new resolution, if we are inadvertently unwinding some administrative actions that have tried to correct the typos that are in the existing language from 2008, and if we do anything that touches that, because we know it's not exactly accurate because it doesn't encompass all the plans that are being offered out there, that somehow we're having an unintended consequence. That's the only. Other than that, I mean, I understand the intent, and it seems fine. I mean, I don't object to the intent of it.
May I propose another alternative?
Okay, sure.
I think we should flesh out our minutes to say that we addressed this issue, we discussed it, and we took action such and such. Then, after the first of the year, look to see what extent, if any, well, we've got to do something to it because it is incomplete. Section 7 is incomplete at this point. If we want it
Yeah.
to make it complete or get it less detailed or just, again, make a conscious review of it and come to a conclusion, but not try to do it now.
I think that works for me. I think it accomplishes the written record you're
Yes,
you're
that
looking
does.
for.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe you need to take any official action for that to happen.
No, at the next meeting we'll take an action approving or amending the minutes, and then ratifying the minutes as amended.
Okay.
If it's not, if we don't like what you wrote.
I have
No.
one other idea that I'd like to suggest, and when Mary Ann Burke was talking about a record of action or a paper trail, I was wondering if I could talk to Rose about helping us come up with some type of a spreadsheet that shows the salary from year to year to year for the different positions, and then at least we'd have it all in a spreadsheet, and it would be what you were looking for. It wouldn't have the details, but at least it would have a record. And I admit, for me, reading text with numbers is difficult, and this is always like, oh, which number is it now in that paragraph? So maybe that would be another step that we could do to start to preserve this record so it's more clear. Okay,
Great.
so we'll bring that back to you next time too.
Good.
All right.
Okay, is there anything else under reports? Okay, member comments?
Got my comments already.
None?
No comments?
Okay, and anyone else present who would like to say anything? Okay, we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any objection? Hearing none, we're adjourned.